So, hello everybody, and welcome to our third-year graduates from 2021. Hopefully you enjoy what we get to show and what we are going to show. And we look forward to showcasing all of the students that have got their work on show today. So, I guess we'll head on off down to our first student. If we're all ready. So our first student of the day is Elliot Platt. So who wants to start with Elliot?
I can say just a little bit of what he said about his work. So Elliot says he's an aspiring 3D environment artist with a passion for learning new techniques and programs to improve his skills. And the two projects featured in his portfolio are the Fortress, which he did for the Honours module, and Breathless, which he did for Games Proposal. And so the Fortress was focused on learning how to make foliage using Substance Designer and improve his modular skills, where he uses a library of different parts to bring together a scene. And he enjoyed making the scenery, sort of like the foliage move and bring together the branding for the flags and the logo design over the castle sort of gateway, and he sort of wanted to place it in a scenario where he was the fortress was standing on an island in the ocean, and if you look further into across the horizon, you can see other islands further out, and he felt that he's learned a lot from this project, but he wants to develop it further, or to carry on developing those skills further, and he's excited to learn more. So that's what I can tell you so far.
He's also going to go on to the MA to continue that journey.
Yeah.
Good.
And what's on screen at the moment is Breathless, which was his Games Proposal project. And this is really, he did a beautiful job with this. It's really atmospheric, and Elliot is more kind of environment artist, but he brought in a lot of gameplay elements into it, and we're really pleased with it because he kept play testing and just kind of responding to the kind of like the testers' reactions to the environments and that. And it was inspired as well by kind of Alien franchise and the cassette futurism, so it's kind of this lovely retro feel to it. So we were, really pleased with his progress. Each room has a lot of atmosphere, and you really, when you're playing through it, you get that sense of, I suppose, anticipation and dread, because you have to get out within a certain amount of time, and you have to find the different elements to help you escape each room. So yeah, he did a super job. It was really good.
Brilliant. So yeah, had a nice look at Elliot's work there. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, whoever has been watching. But yeah, we'll move on. If you do want to ever come back to anyone's work that you've seen throughout the show, we'll come back to some at the end, so you can have another look. But next we have Jacob Jordan, who I'm fairly certain wants to specialise in level design. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
So carry on, Pete. Carry on.
So I was just going to jump in there. So Jacob's mainly been focusing on level design, at least in the game proposal, and I believe in the Honours project as well. So essentially what Jacob was trying to achieve throughout the year was at the start he was developing his level design techniques, and he was creating block maps, and submitted a couple of projects before Christmas focused on the level design. And then as we kind of reviewed semester one and looked towards what we wanted to do with building Jacob's portfolio for industry and just trying to develop his level design pipeline, he actually took some existing IPs and dissected what makes the levels interesting, how do they play, what do the different studios look for specifically when developing these levels, and then he built some of his own level block maps around existing IP. And then the project that you can see on the screen, so at the end, is kind of the culmination of his learning through combining gameplay mechanics with AI and block maps. So he kind of tried to rapidly prototype multiple projects across the year. And we definitely find that helps the level design process in the third year. So a lot of the kind of third years at UCLAN do find, especially when it comes to level design, find taking the approach of multiple iterations and multiple projects across a year, because sometimes you can work on a project throughout the course of many weeks, and level design definitely caters itself to quick iteration and prototyping. So that's definitely what Jacob tried to undertake here with what you can see on the screen. So I don't know if you wanted to add to that as well, Beth.
Did manage to say everything that about it just before we cut off, but I mean, you can see from the screen there that you're running through the corridors, you're in combat, and you also have the blink mechanic as part of the gameplay as well, and also a scene where you're using a torch as well to try to locate items. And you make your way through the system until you come to a lift, which also adds more elements to the gameplay. But I think I covered it before when we were talking, so just wanted to sort of say hello as you were cut off in the middle, and I hope it didn't spoil the fun for you.
Cool. So let's carry on and hope that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So next we have Nathan, who's got kind of a mix of skills, really, hasn't he? So I don't know where we want to go with Nathan. Do you want to talk about a certain project first, or is it more just this all-round kind of?
This is his honours, so should I talk about his honours stuff?
Sounds cool.
So, I mean, Nathan's a real, he's very skillful with technical stuff. So over the past years in university, he's made huge strides in his understanding of games and technical skills involved in games. Have we lost the stream again? No?
No, good.
We're good. So his interest in games design comes from his interest in how an overall product comes to fruition. That's what really drives him. And he's also loved the idea of multiple disciplines melding together to create something that transcends one discipline. So he spent a huge amount of time looking into modelling, rigging, texturing, anime, programming. He really likes programming and different things with the UE4 game engine to sort of bring his skills together and create something new. So his final projects are his proudest, and they contain all of these different skills that he's tried to amass together to feel like an actual game experience. So his first-person shooters had the biggest influence on developing his skills, he says. They allowed him to focus on visual design, but also bring lots of attention to the programming aspect and the playable side of it. And he spent a lot of time modelling that RSASS gun. I think he's developed it even further since he submitted this video. So his skills in that area are coming together, where you're also using the rigging to get the arms and hands correct in the game as well. So that's what he did with his honours.
Cool. What did he, I guess, tackle in his games proposal, Rhoda and or P? If we're there.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't access the screen for a minute there. So he did for us. He did a fabulous. It was kind of inspired by his favorite game growing up, which was Left 4 Dead. He wanted to kind of recreate kind of a horde game that's kind of not overly complicated or unforgiving, but it's still really scary and atmospheric. So we kind of saw loads of skills, kind of showcased here, because he kind of modelled the characters and the arms. He then started rigging. He'd never done that before. And then he just kind of was working out the mechanics, bringing everything together, and it's really atmospheric. And he did a really, really super job. And you kind of, when you're in there, it feels so tense, So, yeah, we were really pleased. And I mean, every time we worked with Nathan, his technical knowledge and his skill and his ability to quickly implement prototypes is really, really super. So, and as far as I'm aware, I'm not too sure, Pete, about this, but is Nathan planning to do the Masters as well?
Yeah, I think that would be a question for Josh, but there was definitely a conversation throughout the year, and especially with Nathan's, because when we're assessing the work, it's just looking at the level of detail and attention that Nathan puts into prototyping his work. He kind of starts pretty loose and just gets ideas down on the page, but just his organization and just under the hood communication. We were kind of looking at it and thinking, well, he could slot into an industry team with, the way he codes and prototypes things, so that each one of the different disciplines understands what he's created and can slot in. So he's got a very methodical and organized way of working. And just to kind of repeat what you were saying about his understanding of game feel, very quickly in his prototypes you can really get a feel for the game that he's trying to design. And as we can see from the videos, there's many different types of genres being covered as well. So yeah, really happy. But on the MA front itself, I don't know, Josh, if you wanted to jump in there.
Well, I think he's super motivated and he really pushes himself. And like you say, as part of a team, I think it'd be valuable.
Yeah, I mean, not only can he do this sort of work, but he can do 2D art and painting as well, really well. And he's really kind with the other students, so if they're stuck on a blueprint or something, he'll spend time with them and go over it, and he's knowledgeable, so he's got a lot going for him.
Yeah, I think he's when he was playtesting other people's games and giving feedback to other people, it was really super. He's a real team player. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Nathan. I hope you've enjoyed looking at his work. So next we'll move on to Moyne and have a look at what Moyne's been doing over the past year.
So Moyne, he had a project that he wanted to showcase his 3D modelling skills and a unique way of making models out of parts and creating a series of 3D characters, weapons, armour, clothes and equipment. So he wanted also for it to be almost like a toy-orientated project, so that the end result would be something that could be sold as a toy as well as played digitally as in a game environment. So he focused on a cartoon style, trying to make robot, lots of varieties of robots out of many different little 3D parts that he created. And so with the mesh parts working together to create unique and bizarre looking creatures, so he had lots of connectable parts, and it obviously had been influenced by Lego's Bionicle, and he tried to sort of make the headpieces quite unique so that there was some sort of personality in the robots, and he wanted his end result to be sort of vibrant and colourful and suitable for young people to play with as well. So that's how he describes what he was doing with us, for honours.
Very cool.
And for Games Proposal, Moyne, his kind of his initial plan at the beginning of the year was he wanted to create a whole game, or a whole level, and he succeeded in that. And it was kind of very much based on his kind of modular building skills. So he created for us kind of hack and slash dungeon crawler, and you had to use the items and all the assets, kind of different asset or environment elements placed around the level, and use them to kind of fight against other enemies, opening up different parts of the dungeons. And it was really, really interesting and very atmospheric. So he did quite a bit of playtesting as well, which was really nice to see. And I think one of the lovely things with Moyne is that he's really kind of helpful as well in kind of getting involved in other people's design work and, kind of sharing his thoughts on it, which is really wonderful. So yeah, it'll be really interesting. I think he wants to plan on developing another kind of full level for a game as well. And it'll be really great to see how he progresses with his design work.
Cool.
Awesome. So next we'll go on to David. So it looks like David's taken, I guess, a 3D or an environmental approach.
Yeah. So he's an aspiring 3D artist, as you can see. So he chose to do 3D modelling because it allows him to start with a simple mesh, and he likes to bring those meshes into UE4 and create a world, an environment from them. His future plan is to start creating his own games, which he can publish on Google Play Store, so he's got ambition. And in the future, he'd like to find someone to collaborate with to create more advanced games. So he's working. He'd like to work for an existing studio. He thinks that would be amazing, so that he could further develop his skills further and concentrate on creating more 3D environments. But he's also in September he's going to be involved in a world record attempt with his current workplace, where he'll be creating a 3D visualization. And he's excited about meeting with the general manager of the company to present his work in front of a professional team. So that's what he's aiming to do over the next few months. And he says that the honours project allowed him to have fun with 3D modelling, and it really showed him that's what he enjoys doing the most. So he sort of developed his skills using Substance Painter and the landscape tool in UE4, as well as the 3D modelling aspect in Maya. So, but I think this is now showing his game. If you'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, so, as Bev was saying, he is primarily an environment artist, but, he created this fabulous zombie kind of experience for us in Games Proposal, and it was really atmospheric, and I think he tied in his environment skills really nicely, because kind of how you kind of gain points and kill the zombies is by using the environment, so you're kind of shooting the environment, and for somebody, as I say, who is very driven by environment art styles, he really kind of did a lot of work figuring out the blueprint. So it was really brilliant to see what he achieved. And, it kind of replicated. So I'm really fascinated by this project you've talked about, Bev, with this company, because I'm just wondering if it's kind of some sort of an interior environment like he's created for his zombie game.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure of the details. I just know it's with the job that he does, his sort of job, earning money job at the moment. Have to ask him a bit more about it.
Yeah, and the one thing as well with David, his objective at the beginning of the year was to create a game that his friends would enjoy playing and he'd enjoy playing. And the lovely thing is, when we were looking through his playtesting notes, it was all feedback from his friends and how they enjoyed it. So he totally achieved what he'd set out to do. It was really good.
Awesome. Yeah, some really cool projects from David. That was a really good student in second year as well, so it's nice to see these projects coming along in his third year.
Yeah.
Cool. So next we're going to go over to Joe Scott. So Joe Scott's done a bunch of projects throughout his third year, I think across both honours and Games Proposal. So there will be a few of them on show, but not all of them, because he just did so many. So I don't know if you want to go into some more detail about what he's been doing.
Well, I guess Pete would be the person to speak first about Joe, because Pete has actually offered Joe an internship at White Paper Games, which he's very, very excited and lucky to have. So do you want to talk first, Pete?
Yeah, so I mean, it's probably just a good disclaimer to make that Joe's currently doing an internship at White Paper. So myself, James, and Josh are working alongside him, focusing on the design skills. And essentially, it was kind of Joe's approach to game design, his understanding of game design, but then also just from a purely development perspective, just being able to jump in, provide feedback to his peers. Throughout the year, he was engaging with multiple projects and providing some insightful feedback, and it was just good to see the engagement on the course. So, not only was it just, the kind of hard skills of game development, he was trying to participate in all aspects. So that's what really made him stand out, at least to us. And so, yeah, as Josh was saying, there's just a range of game genres and designs going on here. He goes from the arcadey to the slightly more serious and then adventure-y. And yeah, it was interesting to see his approach and how quickly he could prototype his ideas. And, we'd get a call loop in place pretty early on. And then he would be able to take on board feedback, and I guess another kind of skill to highlight there is, especially as a student, getting feedback from multiple directions can sometimes be tricky because you feel like you need to address everything. And Joe was pretty, he digested the information well and kind of pushed back on some feedback because he thought it might not support the game's design in certain areas, and then also kind of took on feedback in other areas, and really allowed it to improve the games design. And then he also demoed his work to a couple of times. I know definitely for Peter and Scott, who were on the call, and then also Steve Thornton, I believe. So yeah, it's just good to see the overall participation. But yeah, I'll stop speaking now, since obviously I've got a bit of bias involved. So yeah, anyone wants to jump in?
Well, I think one of Joe's real talents is he brings assets that he sort of sources assets very cleverly and brings them together in a really interesting and sort of entertaining way. He's got a real feel for that. And it can be in any sort of genre as well. It's not always in the cartoon style. So, you know, it shows his understanding of how to bring a game together and a level together. And he also was given 2 commendations because he was put forward for the award for games design for our, you know, the UCLAN school this year. He was our award nominee. And the judges gave him 2 commendations for the work that he's done. So well done, congratulations on that, Joe. And he actually wrote something that was interesting, I thought, about the work that he's done. He said his final year at university has been one he didn't anticipate. Having conducted all his classes online and worked 100% from home and never met some of his tutors in person, he thought it would have been a challenging year, but on the contrary, this year has been one of the best academic years of his life. He learned so much from his work, and his tutors really made the best of the situation and were so supportive. So thanks for that, Joe. And working from home gave him the opportunity to gain more independence and gave him time, and he was able to focus on his skills. And he said, I think every student of games design would agree that there's a certain point in time where you find where your skills fit in the industry. And after this year, feel so much more confident in my personal skills. So that's quite nice to hear his view of how, you know, how he sort of learned or developed it even through a lockdown experience. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on in the next year. I'm sure he's got lots more to offer.
Oh, that sounds really lovely, Bev. That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, really good. I think what's lovely as well, what you were saying about, you know, sourcing assets and that, of, you know, where we have some students this year who have used asset packs, you know, and used them quite cleverly, you know, in the sense so that it allows them to focus on their specialism. So that's really kind of, you know,
I think in some cases, Joe's choice of assets has actually influenced gameplay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's really good.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, like for example, this frog game, he sourced some of the assets for that from Sketchfab, which you wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't have normally imagined. But he actually highlighted the work of artists, and you know, that's really cool. It's lovely for them to see their work taken from Sketchfab and put into a game.
And you know, that's a great idea as well, because I know you get a lot of the first years to showcase their work on Sketchfab. So you never know, maybe, you know, in years to come we'll get some of our third years using first year work as well, you know.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Awesome. Well, congrats to Joe for getting all of his awards, but they're definitely deserved. He's really done some fantastic work. So I think we'll move on from Joe now, and we'll go and head over to the other side of the gallery, and we'll have a look at what Mark has to show.
So we have here, this is actually one of Mark's games proposal projects. He did a couple for us, and this was his initial one and it stemmed from last year's construct project with you, Bev, because he really enjoyed it, and he was kind of looking at, you know, kind of how to tell various fairy tales in a different format. So this was the gingerbread man assuming the role of Robin Hood and being. Yeah, and it was kind of it was very charming, some of the designs and some of the thoughts that he had for it as well, which were really good. And
his this is his honours module work here, and it's, you know, in contrast to what he did for games proposal. He did 2 different levels from the same world, and it's like a survivors camp. So it takes place within a post-apocalyptic world. And the focus is on the level design, but it's sort of set in a walled-off camp where a group of survivors live, and it's in the middle of a forest. And
there's a lot of AI work as well, though, isn't there?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it a bit? Because you probably can describe all that quite well, I should imagine, Josh.
Well, Mark has gone off and learnt most of that stuff on his own.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive, and he's done a lot of testing, which means the game actually works. That the honours game, that is, it just feels really solid.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Well,
you
that's a
felt like you
super
could really
achievement.
play it, and it made sense. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Fantastic. So we'll move on again, and next we have Dan. So what's Dan been up to this year?
Dan's been up to developing some fabulous board games. He's a really clever board game designer. And so he's kind of, I think with Dan, his main interests, are kind of, and I think it's probably across both modules, kind of history, military, and sci-fi. And for us in Games Proposal, he created two very different concepts. There was a 2-player game and also a kind of 2-5-player game. Both kind of, the first one was actually based in kind of historical. I'm just trying to let's see. It's this. Oh no, this is your game, Bev. That's our honours game there. That's on screen at the moment.
That's right. Do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
Well, he's a real. He's very knowledgeable about history. If you ask him, doesn't seem to be much he doesn't know about it, and he can tell you in great detail all sorts of things about various timelines and so on in history. And he particularly likes the Napoleonic Wars period. So he decided to create a game based on battles in the Napoleonic War. And it's a sort of 2-person strategy game. And I have played it, and I can vouch for the fact that it's good fun to play. Dan and I played it for an hour or two together, and you can either play it for a short period and be quite ruthless, or you can to make it last a long time and so on. But he's been very particular about making it follow the rules as they were based on facts of the actual wars. And it's a fun game. And he started off strangely, it wasn't a board game at first, it was a 2D platform game, but he hit a few sort of obstacles with that, although it had potential, but he recognised that it would work better as a board game, and he swiftly made that transfer over to the board game and brought it together in that genre, and it worked really well, I think, as a board game. And obviously he was able to put it on Tabletopia so we could play it online remotely, and he tested it with various people and sort of developed it as from their different comments from playing it. And so I think he's got a lot of lot of board games in him, particularly historic ones that he can design in the future. I'm sure he has got that potential there.
I think with the one of the games he did for us was called The Honoured Dead, and it was just a really nice theme. It was kind of based on the Forgotten Soldier, and it was kind of cooperative kind of gameplay where you were playing against the board in a sense, and so you were trying to reveal the identity of this forgotten soldier. And what was really interesting as well about it was that it was tile based, so each time you set up the board it was very different and you had control of that. So the more you played it, the more familiar you became with kind of effective structures, and then with the kind of the team of civilians that were aiming to discover who this kind of forgotten soldier was, you had different kind of character roles you could take up, and each player had a kind of unique ability, and it was really wonderful. And I think what was really good as well was that Dan really got into the playtesting, and each iteration was stronger and kind of it was very intuitive kind of gameplay, and it was really nice because there was a lot of kind of, I suppose, times where you just kind of think, I'm just about to win this, and no, you wouldn't. It was really good.
He's very good at winning games. He beat me hands down when I played it.
Well, this is the thing, and then his other game, I think, which was just on the screen there, was kind of sci-fi and magic, and it was about lithium being depleted from the earth, and just once again, very clean, very clear kind of gameplay, more look-based than the Honored Dead, but just very clever. Kind of structure, and it was a really nice. Honored Dead was a wee bit longer. It was probably about 30-45 minute gameplay, whereas this was 15 to 20 minutes, so there was that nice difference of pacing as well with that. So yeah, I think it will be lovely to see I think Dan definitely has plenty more board game designs there, and it'll be lovely to see more designs emerge, and especially now as well, he's got so into showcasing them on Tabletopia, so
yeah, and it's a great way to test them. And I can tell you what he wrote a little bit about. He said Dan likes to think outside the box, and he feels that this has helped him to create games that have their own style and quality. And he says his main passion is history, particularly wars and facts, but he also enjoys alternate realities and sci-fi. And by exploring both of these themes, he finds he can uncover an interesting alternate timeline, which can be used as idea concepts to create more games for the future. So that sounds interesting.
Dan's also applied for the MA, so I think pushing the board game route might be the way forward. And Jim's joined us now. Maybe Jim might have more input for Dan on the MA when he joins, because he's much more board gamey than me.
What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, the old man's finally worked out how to use technology, so don't worry, everybody. Well, I've always thought there's a place for our students to look at the ideas of sort of crowdfunding board game ideas, and that's something we might kind of run alongside the sort of postgraduate study, because it kind of sort of leads into professionalism of kind of making these type of games. So and there's always a market for historical games and strategy games, so I think the idea of making history accessible, if you will, for people, whether it be it can be quite complex or it can be quite straightforward, but people like those kind of strategy approaches. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Dan on the course.
Cool.
Gosh, it sounds like an exciting year ahead for Dan.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, it's quite exciting because Dan did do some really good board game projects in his second year. So again, it is really nice to see that that's the kind of decision he took in his third year, to kind of keep that progress and keep creating these board games, because he did have a good impact, and they were normally group projects as well, and he normally helped lead those into a successful kind of destination. So really cool to see that Dan did some more board games in his third year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, so next we've got Dylan.
Okay.
So what's Dylan been up to?
Who wants to go first?
Well, he's got his puzzle game up there, Bev. He did that with you?
So, he likes to create games, and he aspires to create levels which are memorable, creative, fun, and successfully guide the player. And this is an interesting game that he created that was a bit sort of influenced by Escher, and also Monument Valley. I'm sure people have played Monument Valley. I love that game. He was sort of inspired by those two games to create this little level here that he's made, and it was challenging. So he did well to sort of bring this together, because it raised new and interesting sort of challenges for him as he was designing it. But
I think it's as much a puzzle to create as it is to play, really, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. I mean, he says his main inspirations in designing levels are taken from retro Nintendo games, which don't feature in-game tutorials. So players would have to figure out the rule of the game through experimentation. And he says video games have shaped him as a person. They've allowed him to grow, and they're a great tool for developers to explore meaningful ideas through a myriad of different genres, storytelling, beautiful visuals, captivating music. And people can learn and develop their problem solving and logical thinking skills through mechanics and gameplay. So there's so much involved, and I don't think people always appreciate how many different technical and aesthetic skills go into games design, and they enjoy the visual and the experience, but under the bonnet there's so many things going on, and this is what Dylan's saying here, and so he likes to get those sort of things into his games if he can, and he likes to sort of teach players how the game works and its key functions via gameplay. So that's quite interesting. Anyone have got anything they want to add?
Yeah, I think from the game proposal side, a lot of the challenge, because it's interesting to see Dylan's honors stuff, because again, it was kind of a flip on the game proposal in that a lot of the approach to the semester was, it started off as collaborating in a team. So, they took an initial seed of a project that three students of the class wanted to kind of partake in, and they developed and prototyped the ideas as a 3D art designer and then kind of a mechanics designer role, so level designer and then mechanics designer role. So there was a 3-person team, and that took Dylan up to the end of the semester, and then again, as I mentioned before with Jacob, the kind of reflection part of the end of the semester one. Okay, I've done 2 different group projects now. What do I want to do to kind of refine my design skills? And the approach that Dylan actually took was taking existing tools, so whether they be asset packs or mechanic packs. So you can see in this game, he's got a combat mechanic pack, and then he kind of took those tools and then figured out how to work them into his level design ideas or game design ideas. And so the goal of that was, okay, if I'm going to be joining a kind of larger development team, I want to understand how to take existing tool sets and kind of manipulate them to design my own gameplay around. So that was pretty cool to see Dylan undertaking that, because some of these asset packs can be pretty complex to use, and so part of it was deconstructing, as you would when you join in a larger team in industry, like taking the existing tools and trying to work with them. So that works really well for his portfolio.
Cool, yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, looking like Dylan's done some really good work in his 3rd year. And yeah, some cool projects. So next, we're going to move over to Seth. So we've got a concept artist finally in the degree show. So I don't know if anyone wants to take the lead on what Seth's done.
Well, Seth specialises in 2D art and character design in particular. So he likes to try and make memorable and creative characters. And he takes inspiration from the likes of cartoons, high fantasy and World of Warcraft, and those elements that inspire him so much from them. And so he's grown up with video games, he says, and they've made him who he is today. They've stoked his imagination time and time again and given so many characters that are relatable and have helped him grow as a person. So that's pretty cool to hear, isn't it? And games have such a wide span what they can do, he says, from telling meaningful stories with fun gameplay to making wonderful, engaging visual experiences. And I hope to be able to make designs for characters in games that people will not forget. And he says, this project really helped me when practicing simple shading and consistent stylized cute art. He wanted a world of high fantasy, and he aimed to develop his character art and some of his environmental as well, along with his drawing skills, as he sort of created this project for honours, which was a series of roller skating characters in an arena style environment. So the one that's on the screen at the moment is actually from the games proposal project, though, so Guardian Star. So I don't know if you want to have a word about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's lovely here is just seeing how Seth has gone from kind of traditional pencil drawings, brought them into Photoshop, and kind of added colour and kind of enhanced the personalities. It's been really lovely to see how his character design has progressed this year. He did 2 game concepts for us, both kind of based around a group of young adventurers kind of writing the worlds. But two very different styles of games. One was kind of the Guardian Store, which you see at the beginning there, which is kind of very cutesy and it's 2D turn-based. And then you have a kind of more fantasy-based one, which even in the title is kind of, it's the Legacy of Blood. And this is more hack and slash. So it was really nice to see that difference in portfolio. And I think, you know, what is very interesting with Seth's character design, he is very much driven by the emotions and the actions and how characters grow and how they relate to one another within groups as well. So yeah, it's I'm not too sure what Seth's plans are for the future, but he's definitely, you know, he's definitely got some great skills in character design. He brings a lot of personality to his characters, and what's been lovely for us as well is to see the kind of the scope of his design work as well, and the range of genres that he's explored. So I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. It's really good.
Also, he took part in the CJAM event that UCLAN had this year, which was where we had lots of different people from industry offering mentoring for students. Students had to sort of showcase their work and do a little bit of a sort of introduction of themselves to a sort of group of industry professionals. And Seth was given a mentoring session offered a mentoring session with Naomi Robinson, who's one of our fantastic industry contacts, and she's she does beautiful concept art and work for board game artwork as well. So he was really excited when he got that, and very sort of inspired after he'd spoken to her. She motivated him a lot when she spoke to him, which was lovely.
And you could really see the difference in his work as well. You know,
yeah.
It was really, really nice to see. So I think
it encouraged him. That was the thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, very good collaboration. Great.
Awesome. Some really cool stuff from Seth there. Seeing some of those drawings, really, really nice. Cool. So next we have Adam. So what's Adam been looking at this year? I mean, towards the end of the second year, it felt like he was going to go down a design kind of route. Is that where he went?
Well, he did kind of both, really, because he started off with us kind of focusing on level design, but he was kind of, his main thing is about kind of creating worlds and just kind of, it's kind of focusing on the look and the feel. So he went more towards the art side towards the end of the year. What we're looking at here is it was a really lovely concept. It's where you kind of delivering mail in the most kind of out of, you know, kind of remote and dangerous locations. So you have to get to the top of the mountain in a certain amount of time, and there's different routes, and some are more dangerous than other routes than that. And it is quite simply to deliver a parcel, and I just love the concept behind it. And when you see these views here, which are on screen, it's just really gorgeous. And so kind of Adam, you know, he sculpted all the environment himself and did all the blueprinting. So he covered quite a lot of different skills here. It was really, really nice to see. Did a lot of play testing with his friends. You know, he's very pleased with, he has these very powerful flower bombs, which take out, you know, parts of the environment. And he did great work in kind of getting them to grow. So once you picked one, you could see that there was another one going to be reappearing in a wee while. But yeah, it's kind of, and this was just one level. This was kind of, and the plans are to actually create more environments in more remote and dangerous areas.
Cool. Well, you know, he hasn't actually showcased his honours work on this video, but you can see a shot of it underneath the video, and it is really cute. It's like a little mouse adventure game, and it's done in 2D. So it's a contrast to the 3D world that he's created in the game for games proposal. And he says he loves creating 2D levels and using his illustrative skills and knowledge of blueprints to make artistic and enjoyable experiences. He enjoys filling worlds with wonder and exploration and making the players want to see more. And so his portfolio focuses on the feel and look of the world he creates. And he's sort of brought together this stylized little world with the mouse game, which sadly you can't see at the moment, but it's got plenty of interesting little features. It's got some text-based dialogue in there as well. It's got a different little area that you enter that's a sort of dark little cave area from the outside world. And The music really brings it together as well. He's sort of brought all the elements together, and he's shown again his skills with blueprinting in this, as well as creating. I mean, for the 2D game, he created all his own assets. You know, it was all done by him basically. So that, you know, showed a good versatility really.
Nice. Sounds like two different projects. It's a bit of a shame that we didn't get to see more of the 2D one. But yeah, this looks like a lot of fun. Very cool work. Right, sweet. So next we're on to Adam Ross. So what's Adam Ross been doing this year?
Well, on the screen there's his Nintendo consoles, a sort of different view, a different way of seeing them. So he says he's a game and level designer, but he enjoys some technical design as well, and he likes to focus on fun, and he's a huge Nintendo fan, which is why he aims to make fun and excitement part of his game design. And his honours project, which we've now gone off on the screen, but it was called Alternate Consoles. So he modelled and textured remakes of Nintendo consoles with different unique aesthetics. And then he displayed them in a sort of virtual EGX style booth so that people could, you know, maybe go in there in VR and handle them, pick them up and look at them and so on. But we can see there's a variety of things that he's created here on the, you know, video. He's got lots of different skills. So I don't know if you want to talk about his little dog game for game proposal.
Yeah. I mean, the wonderful thing with Adam was just his ability to very quickly prototype new concepts. So we'd like be chatting to us one week saying, oh, I'm thinking of doing this, and then 2 weeks later we'd have this fabulous prototype. So these 3 games which have just been on the screen, we've got Gun Jammin', which was a puzzle-based game. It was very clever. We have Puppy Board as well. That was inspired by his dog. It's about a little dog, Ollie, who has to go and collect loads of bones across the level, and it was inspired by his own dog, Stevie. Very charming, really, really nice, very quick pace. And it was just the music as well and everything. I don't know if you've mentioned that, but Adam does a lot of his music. His own music, and it's just been a joy to listen to within each game. And the last game that was shown there, which was Blockshot, which was inspired by his kind of love for Tetris as well. And all of that created in Unreal, and just wonderful. I suppose I'm a little bit biased. I was a massive Tetris fan, so I'm like kind of going, wow, this is incredible. So what's on here is Gun Jammin', and you place the gun, and you have to escape a series of rooms, and very clever puzzles, kind of all color linked, and just very, very intelligently put together. And then afterwards,
again, a very versatile designer. You know, he can lend his skills across a broad range again.
Oh, absolutely, Bev, absolutely. And, you know, on board here, or here on the screen now, is Puppy Board. And that was a lovely thing, because every so often, you know, kind of Adam would use found assets, but he's still, like, Ollie, the dog, has been animated. He did all the sound effects. So it's been really nice just to see how he's used different asset packs and that. And as I say, this is very fast paced, very, very charming. And this is Blockshot, and very addictive. It's so you get the walls of blocks that kind of as the game progresses, you can be at any point surrounded by 3 or 4 different blocks, walls, and just trying to reduce them all. And there's different laser effects as well that you can use to shoot different rows or columns of them. And it's really, really super, really great.
I can imagine that being quite an addictive game.
I know, I just want to play it myself.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like some really, really cool projects. I was a fan of the dog one. I'd definitely play that. It looked like a lot of fun. Cool.
It's
so next...
so charming.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Josh.
It's charming.
Yeah, it's just so charming. It's unbelievable.
Charming, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's his music as well that really draws you in. Yeah, it's excellent.
Awesome. So next we have Finlay. So what has Finlay been doing this year?
Well, the funny thing is, just when I look at those characters, I just think of the word charming. It's just so wonderful. So you have this Father Bean character. It's actually not a bean, it's a dinosaur character, and he keeps losing his 3 little kids. They keep running off, so he has to keep finding them. And the little baby dinosaurs have different abilities. So you have kind of like, one is air ability, the other is fire, the other is water. And so the dad finds them, and then they have to get him back to the house. So it's kind of just a really nice loop and very beautifully illustrated. So Finlay's specialization is character design. So a lot of the gameplay when he was showcasing it was in storyboard format, which worked out really, really well. And his second project for us, it was quite funny. I don't know if we have any image. There's an image just below the screen. So it was. This was more about kind of inspired, kind of very much. It's based on a farm, and you have fruit and veg and flowers, and they're all kind of competing against one another for both friendship and ownership of the farm. And there's quite a dark side to it as well, because you get the impression that you have to make everybody kind of get on super well, and then the 3 main characters, their aim is to obliterate the farm. And it was quite funny because it kind of, his initial inspiration was Stardew Valley, as Josh is super friendly, super nice.
Love me some Stardew Valley.
Yeah, I know. I think with this may be kind of not so nice Stardew Valley.
And as you can see from the characters on the screen, Finlay's a master of quirky characters. Where he dreams them up from, I really don't know, because he's over not just the 3rd year, but 2nd year as well. He has thought up so many characters where I'm like, wow, where did that come from? And
in his honours game, he would come to us with characters, and they'd have they're on the screen now. So it's kind of line art with photographs behind, and it just make us laugh every week.
The fish finger guy really gets me every time. And these ones, they're called inconveniences. They're cannon fodder, and they're the inconvenience cannon fodder. But Finlay, he also showed his skills in blueprinting. So, I mean, he hasn't completed the whole level because he was busy doing his character design and his games design documents. But this level, he did actually manage to create quite a few blueprints that involved, quite a few challenging little things that he had to include into the gameplay. So he showed his skill in that area as well. But the characters, I could imagine them being made into toys as well as games. They're quite merchandisable, really, and he just seems to have an endless supply of them.
Awesome, really cool stuff. Very nice. So we'll go over to the kind of final quarter of the gallery, and we have Owen Griffiths, who looks like he's done some really cool design stuff this year.
Well, Owen, that's a job. Do you want to go first, Pete?
Yes, I was just going to say the game proposal stuff's on the screen at the moment, and as we were talking about, asset packs before, Owen took a couple of puzzle packs and tried to prototype some levels. So I think some of the earlier level designs were influenced a little bit by puzzle kind of walking sim type games, and Owen did a lot of playtesting throughout the year. He would prototype his level designs and get people to play it, and then just keep working on the feedback. And so there was some cool puzzle setups going on throughout the year. And then after Christmas, what he did was he got a puzzle pack which allowed you to do multiple mechanics like pushing some blocks and triggering some laser triggers and pulling switches to open doors, the kind of classic puzzle setup. And his task was to kind of create multiple levels whilst kind of advancing the mechanic design, so starting with basic mechanics and kind of progressing them and combining them and using them in interesting ways. And then I believe for his honours, he took a more kind of tonal, kind of atmospheric approach. Is that, Bev?
Yeah, and it was quite spooky. You can see the character there that gives you a fright halfway through the game. He was using the horror game engine, but he created his own assets to encase that and to create his own experience from that. But he's actually got himself a job already. He was offered a job before he even graduated, which is great. Really well done, Owen. I mean, he found a job with Fallen Planet Studios as a level designer, not even a junior, but a level designer. And so he really likes the horror games and interactive puzzle genres. And so he likes to focus on story and in the level development. So he enjoys games such as Last of Us, Portal, Little Nightmares, The Occupation. He mentions, Pete, on how the player must interact with the environment to progress through the story. And he says these two pillars of games development are what he likes to focus on, to make the player think about how to access areas of equipment by progressive level design and understanding the mechanics of the game. And this game that he did for Honours, it was called Static, and he did use the horror engine, but his assets and blueprinting and block models were all his own. So that was, he's done really well as well to get his job. He's enjoying it so far, so good.
That's really cool stuff, especially this one that's on the screen right now. You get a real feel for how the game would play, I think.
Yes, and the sound is good in it as well, Josh. So that adds to the, the element of anticipation.
Yeah. Awesome, nice stuff from Owen. Right, so then we'll go over to Josh. So Josh Rawcliffe, looks like he's been doing some more level blockouts this year.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the games that he did for Honours, it's called Ruins. And the main objective of the level is to progress through the level from start to finish, exploring as you go. So with the secondary objective to collect orbs, and they're sort of scattered around the environment. So he wanted to focus on player movement and how the environment conveys information to the player as they progress, so that they sort of pick up clues as they go along and so on. And he loves games such as Uncharted and The Last of Us, and the idea of signposting and environment information being revealed to a player as they progress through the level. So he says the mechanics in this game are not extensive player mechanics. The player is given a double jump and the camera is placed with a third-person perspective. The player does have the ability to collect set collectibles, but most of the emphasis is on the actual exploring the environment. So once the player has entered the teleporter, he'll go into a cave, and then he has to collect keys and charge them on a power plate and so on. But I think we've sort of jumped over to games proposal. So if you want to have a word about that one.
Well, I think he took a similar approach in a really good way in games proposal as well. And one of the lovely things with Josh is that he did the group work, a group project with Dylan and with Micah in semester one. It was really nice to see how they kind of shared their skills and complemented one another. So I think this final project, it was another positive with Josh is his quick iteration. This was a very short project he did for us. At the very end, it was 2 or 3 weeks, but it was very atmospheric. We kind of tasked him with creating actually we were also using Escher as one of the repeating patterns as an inspiration for creating space, and he just responded to it so well. It was really, really good, and it was he played with scale and how the player moved around, and excellent, really nice work, Josh.
And I think one of the things that we found this year was that students had sort of multiple skills, so they struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year to identify which pathway they wanted to take, because they could take several and they had to sort of make their minds up quite quickly, and a few did sort of U-turns, didn't they, from at the very beginning, and started with something and then changed their minds. And I think by the end of the year, everyone had got to a place where they had recognised what they want to do and where they want to move forward, how they want to move forward with the sort of approach to games design and the area they want to work in. So
kind of a job well done then, Bev, isn't it?
Well,
Brilliant.
we like to think so.
Cool. Right, so then next we're going to move over to Deck. So again, it looks like Deck's been working on some blockouts. So is it the same kind of approach that he went through this year?
Yeah. Do you want to? This is the first project in Games Proposal.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about that one then, Rose?
Okay. So this first project that's on screen at the moment, this was a really interesting kind of concept where Deck was leading the player just through use of color, but also as well in kind of just certain mechanics as well that could be used in specific areas. And that was really kind of, and what was interesting as well is that he's not kind of a massive fan of kind of blueprinting, but he did an incredible job in kind of communicating his concept. We're really pleased with that. And after that, he spent one of the things we found with a number of our students was that, having multiple projects worked really effectively for them, rather than just one project. And it varies with every student, but some students having multiple projects, and working in small time frames worked really effectively for them. And Deck was definitely an example of this, because after doing this project, he then went on to shorter. He kind of did a Halo level. He looked at a few different IPs, and I think he amassed a fabulous portfolio of different level designs. And I think he's got a very strong portfolio kind of at the end of the year. So we were very pleased with that. He's done some great work for us.
Yeah, I mean, he says that the projects that have been important to him were the ones he did at the beginning, the early projects, because they helped him to understand the importance of pre-production, playtesting and planning. And through sort of learning through that process and building upon that, he feels that without the initial projects, he wouldn't have, from his mistakes, and been able to develop a deeper understanding of gameplay as he went, and workflow. So, it's great that he had this several number of projects that he made, and each one he brought what he'd learned from the last one along with him, and he used assets in one of his honours projects, but he used them very creatively. He tried to combine mechanics in unusual ways, so it wasn't just a set mechanic, but coupling them up so that you got unique experiences from it, and looking at best ways to navigate through the level as well. He's very good at identifying that and making it a fun experience, like you say, play testing and responding to the feedback that he got. So I think he's learned an awful lot this year, and I think he's probably must be feeling quite confident now in what he's sort of learned and the skills he has.
I think as well, he's a very eloquent designer. He's in presenting his ideas. It's very fluent.
Well, the same in his written material as well, Rhodes. I've noticed his written material is very eloquent, as well as his audio. His verbal skills,
which, of course, for a level designer is essential. So it's really cool.
Awesome.
Nice one, Declan. Yeah, really good.
Really nice stuff. And then for the final student, we have Jordan Spencer. So Jordan looks like he's been doing a whole bunch of different stuff.
Well, he's socks off a bit, Jordan.
He's worked his socks off, is that?
Yeah, we blew our socks off.
Right, yeah.
We're all sitting here with bare feet.
So what's he been doing?
Well, do you want to talk about this one, Josh? Because I keep sort of hogging the conversation. Mr. T? Or maybe he's a bit tied up at the moment. Well, basically,
go on.
Do you want to talk about Josh's? Or Jordan's, sorry, because I seem to be hogging it all. So, do you want to have a talk about it?
I don't mind you hogging it. Jordan's Tunic creator. This is a game proposal now, not his honours project. But there's a whole load of systems in place so that you can modify what your character looks like. Different cutouts, like the edges of the cloth, the different patterns, the different belts, different styles, different materials, really, really clever stuff, and it's all kind of controlled using sliders. And at some point, when you're happy with your character, you kind of freeze it, and the character comes to life, and you can see your character walking around. And for games like Total War kind of games, this would be the perfect kind of inclusion. It's just very clever, very well done.
Yeah, and also there was quite a touching little bit as well in the final part of the work that he produced, and he put he's over the moon with this project. It became very personal to him, and the one person he would have loved to have shown it to passed away in September, and that was his granddad. So it was good to immortalise him in this piece of work. So he actually had a portrait of his granddad in the hallway where you were doing your tunic creator, and his granddad was portrayed, I think, as a king, and you know he's a real whiz at technical stuff, Jordan. And I have to say also, he's such a lovely team player. He is so kind to his you know, students around him. If they need any help, he'll be the first in line. He'll spend hours testing games with people. You know, if anyone says, "Will you play test my game?" he'll volunteer. He's really kind to other people, as well as being skillful and, you know, having lots of aesthetic sort of strengths. And he said, "This project's been a labour of love since September. Creativity in games has always resonated with me and given me the passion to push a project as far as I can go with it. And there's still many features that I'd like to add in the future, but the piece of work required him to make a very expensive material for the customisable tunic, and he didn't want to just leave it there. So he said if this was made as a feature in a AAA game, it would be too expensive to have every character in a game in a tunic. So he engineered a way, once the tunic has been customised, to bake all the main maps over a dynamic mesh, sort of in a dynamic material over a mesh, onto a much more efficient game-ready model. And I'm sure it's probably very commercially viable, this, and that, you know, Jordan could potentially not just sell it as a project in itself as a medieval theme, but as a system that could have lots of themes added to it. So, you know, the potential there is enormous, really. And so I'm sure he's got a very bright future ahead of him. We've all gone quiet.
No, that was really cool to hear. I just wasn't sure if we were going to go and move on to his other projects. I think with Jordan, it's really nice to see what he's done in the third year. He ended the second year like so strong. He played a pivotal part in, I guess, the group project at the end of the second year, and it was just the first kind of time that we really saw Jordan coming into his own. And it looks like again he's just taken it from second year and just done even more good work in the third year.
Yeah,
which is just really, really nice to see.
He has. He's done amazing work for us. I mean, the first scene you saw there was a combat system that he created for us, and on screen at the moment now is Renown, which this was an AI conversation system, and he was inspired by Fable, and he was kind of thinking, well, in Fable, Renown plays, it's quite an integral part, so he wanted to replicate that, and so he created this very clever, I mean, it's just, you know, kind of visually very strong, but also as well, there's a hell of a lot going on underneath. And, you know, where you go into the court, the king makes a decision and the impact on different groups of people. And then when you go out of the court and into the towns and villages, everybody's discussing it. And he's kind of like the conversation trees he set up for it, really very, very clever. And I think what was amazing, you know, kind of with Jordan, that each week we'd say, well, what about this? And he go, I'm on it. And he responded so well to feedback. It was really nice because he kind of saw it not as a kind of criticism, but more like, all right, yeah, I'm on that. Yeah, I'll figure that out. I'll check that out. So, and I think, as Bev was saying there, he's, as a team player, and you've just kind of mentioned it as well there, Josh, he's an absolutely brilliant team player. He kind of, not only does he deliver himself, but he kind of supports everybody else to kind of ensure they deliver as well. And yeah, I think we're all so proud of what he's achieved this year. It's really, really good. So,
definitely.
Awesome.
I don't know. Is he doing the MA? I'm not sure if he's applied for the MA.
I don't know, Bev. Maybe Josh or Jim would know.
Do you know if he's applied for the MA, Josh?
I think so.
Yeah, because I'm sure he's got loads of exciting stuff he could do for an MA.
Yeah, he's very clever. And if he doesn't, you know, there'll be some lucky company that'll get him.
Oh, yeah, they'll be lucky.
He's just said yes on the.
Cool.
Hey, oh, cool.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing some more of his projects from his MA then. Cool.
Yeah.
Right, so that is all the students' booths. We do have a small gallery section again, just like last year. So I'll kind of take a wander around that. If there's any questions that you want to ask in maybe the Twitch chat, any other students that you work that you'd like to go back and look at, just as I kind of have a little slow wander around the degree show.
Have to say, Josh Wright has put this degree show together, and it looks really lovely. We're so proud of it. So thanks very much, Josh.
So good, Beth. No worries.
It looks great.
Again, we have some of our like 3D assets that were given from some of our students. So I think it's all from either Adam Ross or Nathan Newsom. A couple of their I guess assets that we can have a look.
Oh, that's Adam's. I was trying to figure out whose work that was there.
Yes, it's very showcasing the sort of EGX type environment. Some of the images look great in big posters, don't they? You know.
Yeah.
Some of the colours are really popping.
Yeah, especially like, is it David's in the corner there?
Yeah.
Works really well. Both of these together, the interior and then the village, really nicely.
Definitely.
Awesome.
And there's Micah's work as well. She's done some lovely concept art, and she's really into sort of D&AD characters, and she did actually, I think the character with the glasses, the bird character, I think she was so pleased about that because that was her first D&D character, and it's called Wizard Cheddar, I believe, and it was a proper brief that a commission that somebody gave her. Yeah, so and she loves horror, but she loves character design as well. So I think it's lovely to see her work in the gallery there.
Absolutely. I'm surprised there isn't some sushi reference there, but
she's called Lady Sushi on Twitter if anyone wants to look her up. Yeah.
Sweet.
Has anyone got any questions for us in the chat?
I'll have a little wander back.
There's no questions so far.
Did you say there was the highlight reel from the first years and the second years?
Oh yeah,
Could we have a look at that?
Yeah, of course.
The first years and the second years have done some lovely work this year as well. So
it's only a little bit of what has been, I guess, submitted throughout some of the first year and second year projects. But we've got, what is this, Bev? Some of the assets from your module?
Yeah, so this is from XP1 101, and Will did actually come with some skills prior to, first year. So he was a little ahead of the others. But many of these students who are showcasing their work now haven't ever done any 3D modelling before they came on the course. And so in this first year, they've sort of got to grips with the foundations and basics of 3D modelling and UV mapping and hand-painted texturing, so that they can be prepared for the more advanced work that they're going to have to do with James in the second year. And I hope that I think so many of them have shown that they've learned those basic skills. So I hope they now feel really ready to go on. And then this is some of the Hammer Girl work, I believe.
Hammerhead? That would be a different twist on it, wouldn't it? Maybe we can try that sometime. The Hammerhead project.
I used to work for Hammerhead. That's what.
So yeah, this is just a little glance at some of our first year's projects called Hammergirl. This is them using an asset pack, but they have to kind of use and create mechanics so that they can create levels and use those asset packs to create something for the player to actually play. So this is a project that I guess all first years partake in. And it's just quite a nice project, a little bit more advanced in terms of Unreal Engine, kind of getting them ready for the second year. But yeah, we have quite a good and a successful amount of projects coming out of Hammergirl, especially this year, which was really exciting to see.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying that the first years have been amazing this year because their lessons have been online, and yet despite that, they've achieved an awful lot. They've been a fantastically sort of dynamic year group, all working together in groups in a really exciting way, and getting to know one another, even though it was all remotely. And so it was interesting really to see how they would cope, and they coped remarkably well. And I think it's just going to be lovely to see them all meet each other. I can't wait for them all to see each other in real, in real life. Because they've been so patient and they've built relationships, and it's showing in their work that they've done, that they've managed to keep going and learning and so on.
Cool, so we'll take a quick glance at some of the second year stuff, and then we're going to head back to Seth's project.
We have a question from Steph. She's asking if Katie Lofts has a Twitter.
That's a great title.
Yes, Katie Lofts. Her work was featured in that first year reel.
Do they have a Twitter account that we can follow?
Now it's hard to pronounce, so it's something. Oh dear, Katie. It's something like
I might just see if I can get it.
If you write it to me, I'll post it on the chat.
If you just give me.
Okay,
if you send me a message, Bev.
I'll send you a link. Because it's hard to pronounce it. So I'll just have a quick look, guys. Bear with me.
Is it Mayochi? Is it that one?
Yes, it's that.
Yeah, okay. So So this is sorry, I was trying to find a Twitter handle. This is some of the second year's vertical slice. So at the end of the second year, we now get our students into groups and get them to do a project, working together, focused on just splitting up, deciding who wants to do what, with a focus still on design. And this year we had four different groups, so we got 4 different games. Everything apart from mix and mode characters is all done from the students or by the students. So in each project, we do see a different range and I guess approach from each group each year, which is really quite exciting. This year we had a couple of 2D side scrollers. We had a horror experience, which is this one now, and then we had more of an adventure experience, which is the one you get to see. But yeah, we had 4 really cool projects. It was nice to see the students still working from home, but working together to create something that worked towards an actual vertical slice of a game. And I think all the groups did really well. Again, the fact that working from home and they're able to create something to these kind of standards is really, really nice to see, and I think shows what they could do in their third year. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and I've shared Katie Loft's Twitter account, Myochi, so it's MYOCH.
I've already put it in the chat, Bev.
We got it. It's all good.
Thank you. But Katie has done some remarkable work this year. She's got a very interesting, unique style of her own in 3D modelling that's very sort of clean cartoon style, and she hadn't modelled before when she came on the course, and considering that, she's developed her skills so intuitively, and she's put several little games that she's made in Construct 3 on Itch.io as well. So, you know, it's marvellous to see how she's come along, and it's interesting to see Steph's picked up on that. So thanks, Steph.
NJ's asking if there's a chance that we can hear the audio on any other projects.
So no, so unfortunately the audio that we've got is just attached to the highlight reel. If what we'll look to do is get some of these highlight reels out onto our YouTube channel with sound, if that's what the people want, I guess.
Sounds like it's what the people want.
Sounds like it's what NJ wants. It's a bit different.
NJ's the people.
Well, it's lovely to be getting some questions. Have we got any first years on Twitch that want to ask anything? Or second years?
Or anyone?
Any questions? Type them on the chat.
Industry folk?
He seems happy with your proposal, Josh.
That's good news. I'm glad I'm pleasing him.
So each year we try and sort of vie for the attention of either a 3D modelling side of the course or the games design course, and see who gets the most people. It'll be interesting to see what happens with our next third year coming up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite mixed again, to be honest. I think we've got a lot of students who want to do design, a lot who want to do 3D, and we've also got a fair few who actually want to do a bit of concept art, so I think it's going to be very varied next year.
Exciting.
If I can just come in on the back of that point, actually, because I've got an email earlier this week from our new external examiner, Lynn, who's from University of Aberdeen. And she's obviously been looked through sort of our work as well as kind of the third year's work, and just sort of through the comments kind of leapt out to me, which, you know, might be useful this evening. And one of the things she said, she was very impressed with the sort of wealth and variety of work that all our students produce. You know, there's a broad spectrum of kind of ideas that things people pursue, you know, and they're kind of very impressed with that. And also some of the ambition and the scale in some of these pieces as well, that, you know, where some students sometimes kind of tend to think quite small. She says, you know, we've got some people here think big, and, you know, whether that be games or kind of art or concepts kind of thing. And the final nice bit as well, just, you know, that again, comments that there's a really, you know, as an outsider can see there's a strong theme of industry level skills, you know, that our graduates are kind of, you know, showing that they're ready to work as well. So, you know, that's interesting coming from somebody who's kind of from outside of this course and come to it quite fresh this year.
That's lovely to hear, Jim. It was really nice to meet Lynn recently, you know, and she came and said hi, and she's got lots of students at Aberdeen as well that she teaches, so she's very, you know, experienced, so it's interesting to hear her view.
Yeah, I think she'd be interested, like you just said then, Josh, as well, about, you know, be interested to see how the second year coming through to the final year next year, and I think sort of Lynn's equally interested again, just to see, so we might try and tempt her for an early visit, maybe.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, sounds cool. Sounds really cool. This is a bit of Adams that you were talking about, Bev, before, I think. Yeah.
That I mentioned earlier, yeah.
Right, well, unless there's any questions, anyone wants to see some work again, are we going to call that a good?
Looks like there's no more questions in the chat for now.
But take it, have we recorded this?
Marcus says that the dog skateboarding game is sweet.
So what should happen, Bev, is we should be able to download it off Twitch, so I'll do that, and then I'll make sure that I can put it elsewhere.
Yeah, because I think, you know, then we can watch it back, which will be lovely to see, and
I'll have to piece the two parts together. That's what I'll have to do.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Well, we've done some really cool work. Glad for anyone who did stop by and watch. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the chat. Thank you for helping with the questions, James. That was brilliant as well. And thank you to Josh, Bev, Rhoda, and Pete for being able to talk about all the students' work so well. And again, just thank you to the students for what looks like they've done a really good job this year.
Yeah,
So,
well done, Sergio.
Well done.
Thank you, Josh, for running the whole thing.
It's all
Yeah,
good.
thank you, Josh.
I mean, I almost didn't run it, did I? It almost went bust. Brilliant.
We'd forgotten about that, actually.
It's alright. Everyone put F's in the chat and it fixed the computer.
Worked.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess until next year, when we get to show off some more exciting work, we shall see you all later. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.